to Katie's Kitchen, episode number 5. Today we are going to be making breakfast for the week. Well, for today and the week. So what we're going to do is we're going to freeze it. But it is called Breakfast Egg Muffins, and it is provided to us today by HelloBee.com. It is a paleo-friendly meal if you're doing that diet. The other thing is I kind of had to take a jab at how many servings it produced, because she's really unclear on that, and so I have all the ingredients, and then I just assumed that it would make 6 servings altogether, so that's 2 meals during the week that you don't have to worry about. You can just grab from your freezer and go.
Or an entire week if you're feeding just yourself.
Or an entire week if you're feeding just yourself. Sorry, I always didn't take into consideration that Jeremy will be eating half of whatever I make. So anyway, with that in mind, the whole thing cost, for all the ingredients, cost $11.19. Now that doesn't include this block of cheese that we just happen to have in the refrigerator that I'm going to add in, that is not a part of the original recipe. And then the recipe, as I'm going to make it today, is about 370 calories per serving, assuming that we got the number of servings right, which we'll see.
They're individual, so it's going to come out individual, like, muffin-sized things,
yes.
And we're assuming 4 of those is a meal,
yes.
Which we'll know better next episode.
So, I mean, that's kind of the thing when you go online and you're like, I don't really know what's going on here, but that's okay, we'll learn. So what I'll be cooking with today is I'll be using my olive oil from a spray. It does recommend 2 tablespoons of olive oil to saute your onions and your peppers, but again, there's no reason to do that, I don't think, because this works just as well and it saves you the calories.
Should have more of that, we're almost out.
Good to note. I also have a pound of pork sausage, about 2.5 ounces of cheese. I think it's cheddar, I have no idea. It'll be delicious, I'm sure. 2 tomatoes. 2 bell peppers. I chose green and red. They're my favorite. They're also the cheapest of the 2. Green's is super cheap, and then red's like sort of cheap, and then the yellow and orange are expensive. They're like $2 per pepper, which is a lot. And then a jalapeno pepper. We're going to use half this onion, and then a dozen eggs. And that'll be all of the ingredients in this list. Because this is kind of an egg muffin, you can make whatever you want. And if you don't like meat, get rid of the meat. If you don't like cheese, get rid of the cheese. If you like mushrooms, put in mushrooms. Jeremy's making a face, but there's all sorts of things that you can do to make this your own. Just remember that whatever you take in and out, the vegetables aren't so much a big deal because they don't have a lot of calories in it, but as soon as you start substituting meats or cheeses or whatever, that's when you're going to start to really move the calorie count for this. But one of the things that I use before this is I use FitnessPal, MyFitnessPal.
MyFitnessPal, I think it's called. MyFitnessPal,
and I just add in all the ingredients that I'm going to make, estimated number of servings, and then it'll actually tell me how many calories per serving, so it's a really good tool.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know have had success with it. Look at me slice.
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
I like how somebody else also referenced that they were scared for your fingers.
Oh, they're fine. I've never cut myself using the knife. I've cut myself cleaning the knife.
That's true. You did cut yourself pretty bad cleaning the knife one time.
That's a different story.
Now I clean the knife.
Problem solved. But anyway, I know a lot of people have had success using that as just a calorie tracker. Anyway, so it just might be a tool that you want to look into.
It's great because you can just scan the barcode on your food, and a lot of the stuff's already pre-entered by people. You don't have to like enter by hand yourself how many calories whatever it is has in it, which is kind of nice.
Ah! I got it. It slipped, but the wrong way. See, my fingers.
I feel like it was the right way.
We're just fine. I meant not towards my fingers. So I'm just chopping up some onions. While I'm doing this, I'm sure I'm still making them crazy because now I'm pushing down on the knife, which I've been told several times is the wrong way to use the knife. You know what? They all get chopped, and the knife is fine. I'm going to go ahead and start preheating this. I've already preheated the oven to 350 degrees. You guys are going to start to notice a trend that I have a lot of onions and peppers in my meals, and also garlic. And these are all really good ingredients that I like and that add a lot of flavor, I think.
You want another bowl to put the onions in while you're chopping, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good. So with the jalapeno pepper, that obviously is going to be, I think, the biggest customization on this for people, is whether or not they like spicy food. Just remember there are all sorts of different peppers that range from spiciness. If you want a little bit of kick, You can also change your cheese to be a little bit more spicy as well. And then if you take the seeds out of the pepper, then that'll also take away some of the spiciness. If you're like, I want to try jalapeno but not full out.
There are a lot of websites about peppers out there, but just because they're ones that Katie and I discussed at the grocery store, I'll throw out there that Anaheims are very mild, and you can probably even get away with leaving most of the seeds in on an Anaheim and not making it too spicy. Whereas if you want something just a little bit peppier than a jalapeno that's commonly carried at grocery stores, you can get a Serrano, which is like slightly more spicy.
Then the other thing that we always discuss is how the recipe turned out from last time.
So right.
Last time, I don't know if you remember, we made baked macaroni and cheese with chicken and broccoli. It was really, really tasty. The smoked cheddar, I think, made a huge difference.
Yes.
Not that it wouldn't be good with just regular cheddar. But
You have a sticker on that pepper still.
But I thought that it just makes it a little bit different than Kraft. And so you could actually tell that it was homemade as opposed to just like, I could have done this from a box and saved a lot of time and effort.
It was really tasty. I don't know that it was just the smoked cheddar, because in general I thought it was delicious, but the smoked cheddar was amazing in there.
The only thing that I will add that I did wrong is I overcooked the noodles, and so my noodles were a little bit soggy, so I wish that I had been a little bit more on the ball with my broccoli, because I don't know if you remember, but I added my broccoli late. And so then I told somebody that I worked and they're like, why didn't you just steam the broccoli? And I said, well, because that wasn't part of the plan. And she said, well, neither was overcooking the noodles, which she has a point.
Was that Sarah?
It was Andrea.
Okay.
I just want you guys to know that now that I'm concentrating on what I'm doing for cutting, it's going a lot slower. So that's on you guys.
Now that the internet has embarrassed you about your cutting.
There's a reason I didn't cut in front of people in college. I'm just saying.
To be fair, there were only 2 people besides me that teased you about the cutting.
It's true.
But it is a high percentage of the comments you've received so far.
It's all the comments I've received so far. I've received 2 comments, and those were it. You cut wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and throw these in since the skillet's ready.
Huzzah.
Now the directions say to put the onions in first and then the peppers. I'm just going to skip that step. So I don't know the reason for it. I'm sure there's a reason. I don't know.
Most people like their peppers slightly crispier than their onions in a recipe like this. They like the onions nice and soft.
Whatever.
I'm not too worried about it.
Me either. So I'm just going to make sure that they're not all stacked on top of each other.
Did you remember to spray the oil in there? Oh, you must have, because it's sizzled. Yeah. We're both very hungry, so.
Yes, that's true.
I don't know if you can see the clock behind Katie's head every once in a while, but it's like 9:30, and that's very late for Katie and Jeremy for breakfast. But we were kind of slow getting out of bed this morning.
So when I cut this open, I'm actually going to get rid of the seeds, just because I get a little bit scared of those spicy stuff. But you don't have to. But all I did was cut it in half, and then, you know, there's the core part in the middle, and most of the seeds will stick to it if you're gentle enough. So then we just have the pepper with a few seeds, which aren't so bad. I will say, if you're cutting peppers, make sure you don't touch your eyes. It stings a lot. I've had that happen before, and it's no good. Another way to cook peppers that's really good, while we're talking about it, is put cream cheese in them. That's also really good. Also deep fry them. There's a reason I'm fat. I'm just saying. Take something healthy, and then you add cream cheese and breading and grease.
And you fry it, and it's delicious.
You fry it, and it's delicious.
I do love me some jalapeno poppers.
So,
and if you do happen to get too much stuff on, like something I've seen people do is they're cutting peppers like Katie's doing, and all of a sudden their hand starts burning because they have a paper cut. Water won't necessarily help, but you can dunk your hand in milk. And it makes a big difference.
So, on that note, I'm actually going to wash my hands after dealing with those peppers. Just because I know the consequences and they're real. They're real.
The pain is real.
The pain is real.
You've experienced it.
I've experienced that. Alright. So continue sauteing that up.
I will say that when I was calculating out the cost for the recipe, one of the biggest costs by far in this recipe was the tomatoes, because we bought line-ripe tomatoes. You could actually probably save quite a bit by buying just regular old non-organic, non-vine ripe tomatoes. But the vine ripe tomatoes are really tasty, so we went with the vine ripe ones.
The other thing about tomatoes is I'm going to put them in way later than everything else. So, to Jeremy's point about people liking their onions softer than their things, tomatoes cook a lot faster than peppers. So, and I don't really like tomatoes that much, but I find that in egg dishes, they're not so bad. So, it's my time to get in my tomato vegetable. Expand a little bit.
You really are focused on slicing, aren't you?
I am. How do you put your fingers behind the knife? I don't know what they're talking about. Like, I'd start here? That seems awkward. I don't... I hate you guys. So the other thing, if you guys will remember, as part of my goal for this whole thing, is something to look forward to with cooking as opposed to just like going home and being like, I have to cook tonight, as opposed to ordering Jimmy John's or Chinese or anything else that's super delicious, is to lose 50 pounds, about a pound a week. So far, I've lost about 2 pounds, which is really good, and that's expected, like that you would lose more
faster early.
And then as you start to get more down towards your ideal weight, then that would change and you have to add in exercise and stuff. The other thing is, if you're losing weight too fast, you're probably not eating enough, or it's probably not going to be permanent. So just be careful.
One of the things that I see, especially when people give up like pop and stuff, is they lose a lot of, they call it water weight, even though with soda it's not necessarily water. Like it's really easy to lose some weight from that early on, and then that loss will stabilize as well.
Yeah. So I'm just going to look in here. I believe at this point she says she adds the pork. Yeah. So she says just cook it until it's no longer pink. So we'll do that. And then we'll continue. Cutting our tomatoes. Sorry, I didn't finish my thought.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah.
We being me.
The other thing about the macaroni and cheese is after I was done with it, I was like, man, this would be really good with like some spices and stuff. And so I was thinking rosemary or basil, but then it also occurred to me that I never added the salt and pepper that the recipe calls for. So, you know, if you add that, it might taste good. But you could also throw in some spices if you're like, man, I really love thyme for whatever reason. And throw it in there.
Yeah, I think a lot of spices. I think you could have done a lot of different things spice-wise with that, and it would still be tasty.
The idea, again, being that most recipes are really just guidelines, and you can just add and take away whatever you want to your flavor and what you like. The recipe that we're going to make next, they want you to make your own soft shell, or make soft shell tacos into hard shell tacos, which we're not going to do. We're just going to buy hard shell tacos, because that's a lot of work. But don't be scared away from recipes that start out like that, just because you don't want to do the first half. There's usually a workaround for it. With tacos, it's really easy, because you can buy hard shell tacos, but you'll find with a lot of things, you just don't have to make everything from scratch. Who's the lady? She's like semi-homemade stuff. I don't know if she's on the Food Network. Okay. But if you watch her show, you'll find that like she just never makes anything homemade pretty much. She like puts a bunch of already prepared things together, and
it's delicious. And
I don't know, I've never followed a recipe. I like watching well, when I was in college, I'd go to the gym and they would have cooking shows on the TV, and I was like, doesn't this kind of defeat the purpose of like coming to the gym?
Now I'm really hungry.
Now I'm really hungry, and like I want all these good foods that I obviously can't make because I'm a poor college student. And, like all these appliances that I can't afford and all of that nonsense. So there's my pile of tomatoes.
Mmm, tasty, tasty tomatoes.
And again, just browning the meat. As I'm going through, I'm turning it over, chopping it into littler bits. When this gets almost done, I'll throw in the tomatoes. Because we're going to bake them too, and I just don't want the tomatoes to get overly cooked, otherwise they'll get too mushy.
Do the eggs cook prior to when they go in the oven?
Nope.
Oh, interesting.
So then, what I am doing is I'm taking some of the eggs that we had from the last time. With the blueberry muffins, by the way, I was making a hard-boiled egg to take with me every morning, and that seemed a really good compromise. Yeah,
that was really good. I did the same thing the one day I had them.
So I'm just finishing off the previous carton because, you know, rules of expiration dates and making sure we don't waste food. And these are jumbo eggs. You could always use just large eggs or medium eggs if you were like, I don't need that much.
Yeah, to be fair, our calorie count might be a little bit off because most recipes assume large. I really like jumbo eggs, especially since we do hard boil them sometimes. But
on a side note, you'll notice I'm throwing, so two things. One, I dropped an eggshell in there. You can use the eggshell to get it out, and it like attracts it to it, probably because there's all the white stuff in it already. But then the other thing with eggshells is you shouldn't put them down the garbage disposal for some reason. I forget the reason, but I remember it was bad.
I don't know. That's one that's new to me. Because I always used to put mine down the disposal. Now I know.
Now you know. Don't do that.
Knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is half the battle. Again, just salmonella all over my kitchen. If you have children, you should not come to my house for a variety of reasons. This is one of them. So we're all done with that. Gonna check my meat again real quick. It's getting a little bit harder to break up as it cooks, so it's something that you can keep in mind as you're cooking it early on. Just break it up as much as you can, because you don't want one muffin with like a bunch of meat and then another muffin with no meat, and then you have like an odd disbursement.
Yeah, similar to the blueberries thing. You want to try to get the flavor spread throughout.
So I'm just going to take a whisk and I'm going to whisk these eggs slowly at first until they start getting broken up. So I don't want them splattering everywhere. Well, an even bigger mess.
You never make a mess when you cook or eat food.
So last night we went out with a couple of friends. So that's the other thing about this diet is it should allow for you to go out and have fun and not feel like you can't, because eating is a very social thing. And the idea is that for the most part you're eating at home, but you should still be able to go out with friends and eat something and not feel like you're just totally thinking your diet. Where I feel like if you're giving up carbs or something, you're more focused on what you can eat than hanging out with your friends, and that's not the idea of food, right? Like the idea is that you're going out to enjoy each other's company. So anyway, I went out and I got ribs, because ribs are delicious, and I just dropped the whole thing down my shirt. And I like to think I was taking one for the team, because that's normally Ted's job,
but Ted didn't make a mess last night.
Ted didn't make a mess. Well, I made it for him.
Oh, okay.
So, you're welcome, Ken. That's really what I was doing, just being a good friend.
Does the cheese need to get added ahead of time, or are you going to add that later?
I am going to add it in a couple seconds. So when the veggies are done cooking, move them from the heat and let them cool for a couple of minutes, and mix them into the eggs and add your salt and pepper. So I think that these are about done. I'm not seeing any more pink on my sausage.
You never added the tomatoes.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I would have figured that one out.
You would have.
So I'm going to put these in here for just about a minute. Not very long. And obviously these are a lot of tomatoes. We got 2 of them. So if you were like, you know what, I like tomatoes but not that much, then you can just do 1. Again, just making it your own. Making sure something that you will eat. And when you get up in the morning, you should look forward to eating, not something that you're like, I eat whatever. You should be like, oh, this is going to be delicious.
Yeah, having a breakfast you enjoy is really a good way to help improve your attitude for the whole day. Like, I remember for a while, some of the diets we've tried have had fairly lackluster breakfasts involved with them.
Yeah.
And, like, I get up in the morning and I'm like, oh, well,
I guess I'm eating this, or they take a long time to prepare. Like,
yeah.
One of the things I've been focusing on is finding foods that you can freeze and then just take with you on your way to work or heat up real quick while you're taking a shower or something. The other thing is you'll notice that I'm not really shredding this cheese, which would really be a better way to do it. But I don't want to make my cheese grater dirty, so I'm just cutting it. Mastermind. Life hack.
Yeah, life hack. Life hack. Use a knife.
So we were watching Cracks the other day.
Kimosabi.
You watched it with me.
I did, but you were watching it before I joined you.
I was, and they were making fun of people who call like simple things life hacks. So like a life hack would be, I don't know, a good example of one, because all I can think of is the bad examples now. But they were going through people's like life hacks that they've listed online, and they're like, those are really just like cooking tips or like directions on how to do something.
Yeah, like there was somebody that was like, before you put eggs in a skillet, you should spray it with oil, or I was like, that's not a life hack.
It's just a rule.
It's just a thing you do when you cook.
So we're gonna let that cool for a second.
Of course, now watch. One of the people that watches this video is going to be the person that posted that life hack, and
I don't think so. If that's true, it's a super small world. Of like the 4 people who watch my video.
Hey, you have like, I forget, like 17 subscribers now.
I have 7.
No, 17.
Was it 17?
I think it's 17 now.
I don't know. People are so nice. They're like, aw, she's cute. Not cute, like attractive, cute, like she's trying. She's trying so hard. I'll support that.
I think you're attractive, cute.
Well, you have to.
That's true.
It's in the contract.
Yep.
Where's the pepper?
Probably behind the honey.
I don't know. There it is. Yeah, I found it. So the other thing, and this will come up in our taco episode, is one of the reasons we're having tacos is, I wanted tacos last night. We went to a taco place, but then they had ribs, so I got ribs, hence all over my shirt. So I still want tacos. But then the other thing is, our buddy gave us some homemade salsa, and so we need something to eat the homemade salsa with. It's very important.
And tacos are good with homemade salsa. We could probably theoretically, you could throw a little salsa into this recipe, although we've already modded it quite a bit for today.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do that, then you'd want to concentrate, instead of cheddar cheese, you'd want to use a spicier cheese. And
probably leave out the tomatoes. But I'm just saying it's a thing you could do with this recipe.
It is a thing that you could do. The other thing I would worry about with adding salsa in the recipe, and you could definitely add it on the side, is if you added it in the recipe, I just worry about the consistency, because salsa is kind of watery.
Right.
So you could also drain this, by the way, if you were of that sort of mind where you're like, man, you should drain your meat so you get all that fat off of it first, instead of just being like, oh, glorious fat. The one thing about fat that I will say, if you eat it in moderation, if you're hungry during the day and you eat something that has fat in it, the fat will keep you satiated.
Yep.
Not to say eat a Snickers bar, that's not the kind of fat I'm talking about. I'm talking about like...
I feel like we should have gone with a bigger bowl.
No, this one's perfect.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right size.
Okay.
Just get that off. Ew. Sometimes eggs are gross. So I'm just mixing that in there.
Delicious.
And then she says a 1/4 cup of the mixture into each of the things. And I wonder, because Jeremy said that it looked like she was using a regular muffin, and I just don't know that she was. I think she was using a mini muffin.
She might have been. I don't know. We'll see how many muffins we get. Because this is a single batch or a double batch that you've made?
This is a double batch. Well, she originally cut the recipe in half.
Oh, okay. So you put it back to what the original recipe was.
So I put it back to what the original recipe was, from wherever she found it. So I'm just going to take my 1/4 cup. I guess it would have to be regular.
Yeah, it has to be a 1/4 cup.
And then she doesn't have the little things. She said to just, spray your pan. But I like the little things.
Muffin liners?
Muffin liners, because then I think it makes the muffin easier to clean. But I also know somebody from work was like, I don't like muffin liners at all. I think that they ruin it. So...
It'll be interesting to see if the muffin liners separate from this well enough, because eggs are pretty sticky. So we'll see. It's a learning experience.
It is a learning experience. And the thing about cooking, especially with recipes, is the more you cook them, the better they're going to get. Just because, one, you know what you're looking for. You know, like, oh, I added too much tomato the last time. Like with the macaroni, it's like, I should have added some basil. Like, you just come up with things that you're like, this is what I should do differently next time. That'll make it better. I'm guessing that they were regular muffins based on...
Based on how much space the quarter... Because that is a quarter cup, right?
This is a quarter cup.
Yeah, she definitely is regular muffin. Also, you're going to need way more than one pan.
Yeah.
We only have one muffin pan, so...
So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and throw these in the oven. I think she says 15 to 20 minutes. I'll double check before we sign off here. And then at the end, we can come back. I'll let you know how many muffins we'll have made. Actually, I'll just do it in the taco one. No, I'll do it this time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We can have the end of this one.
Okay.
We have the technology now.
We have the technology now to hit pause. And we'll show you what they look like when they're all done. So we'll see you in a little bit.
I feel like a couple of those could use a little more egg in them. Okay. That's just me, though. All right.
This one?
Are we good for now?
Mm-hmm. All right, and welcome back. So I have 2 pans that have been made. There are 5 more in the oven, although one's really tiny, so I'd go 4.5. And then Jeremy and I ate 5 altogether. However, we know that we're going to be eating lunch in a little bit because we waited till I ate breakfast. So it was a little bit of a lighter breakfast. I only had 2, Jeremy only had 3. If I was grabbing some for lunch that I was going to take to work, then I would eat 3, Jeremy would probably eat 4. And we go for there. But they're really good. When they come out, they kind of look like this. I really like having them in the wrapped thing. One of the things that Jeremy and I talked about is if you are going to microwave it, to get out of the wrapping first.
Oh, you moved it. I was zooming in on it.
Oh. Take it out of the wrapping first because it'll be a lot easier to peel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've never made egg muffins before, so when I first took them out of the oven, I ended up doing the knife test, so just sticking a knife down the middle of one, bringing it back out to see if it's clean. You do the same thing with baking. I ended up baking them each for 18 minutes. So let me see how many servings. So there's, let's go with 9 more than this. So 3 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
29.
6, 18, 20.
Because 12 times 2 plus 5 is 29.
Oh, that way too. But it's more like 28.
Yeah, so 28.
So they're about 7 servings
Yep.
altogether, not 6 servings. So your calorie per count is a little bit lower than that, but all in all, I think it's a really good meal. We'll see how they freeze. When we tasted it, it was delicious. I will say my cheat of not shredding the cheese and just cutting the cheese was not a good idea because all the cheese was heavy and so it kind of sunk to the bottom, and so the later ones have more cheese than the earlier ones, and the cheese is delicious. So if you want it evenly spread, then you'd have to shred it or buy shredded. You're just like staring at the eggs.
Because they're delicious.
But they are delicious. The other thing, real quick, that I noticed is my green cupcake things didn't seem to make a difference, but my purple ones seem to be, the dye seems to be running. So.
Like into the eggs?
Not into the eggs. Well, I don't know about into the eggs, but like when I pulled it out of my muffin pan had purple on the bottom.
Oh, interesting.
And so I don't know if it's just this dye in particular or what, but it...
Interesting. And for freezing these, I think what we're probably going to do is we'll just put 1 row of them into a freezer Ziploc baggie and freeze that baggie.
Yeah.
And like she said, we'll probably freeze them in their wrappers and then take them out when we cook them.
Right. So anyway, that's that. And then you'll have breakfast for, let's see if there are, let's see, if you eat 4 of them and I ate 3 of them. So that's 7 altogether. So then 7.
There's 28, so 4 meals.
So 4 meals, so you got 2 days that you don't have to worry about breakfast. It's pretty good.
4 days.
4 days. Oh, 4 meals.
4 meals
person.
4 meals per person.
4 meals per person.
But then we ate it today, so like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for us.
So Monday, you don't have to worry about breakfast for 3 days, and even then you can always just grab like a meal bar or something because people are busy in the morning and you don't want to get up early just to make breakfast. Well, I don't.
Yeah, and again, like if we were going to make this for us and we wanted to make it for the whole week, now that we have some idea how many it makes, we could make like a 2.5 batch, like
right.
15 or 16 eggs worth, and we could just make breakfast for the week.
Right.
Or if you're cooking for yourself, should be plenty for 1 person for a week.
So there you go.
All right.
Have fun.